All right, we do have Clay with us right now, the publisher and editor of Hogs Illustrated in Fayetteville today. Clay, what you got going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. We are having the inaugural Hogs Illustrated Sports Club luncheon. And we're at Mermaids. My job is to introduce Ken Hatfield. That's what I'm doing today.
And of course, a perfect speaker for an Arkansas versus Rice football game. There might not be a person in the world that understands these two programs better than Ken Hatfield, right?
You pick it up pretty quick, Phil.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that he coached there 12 years and took them to 3 leagues. I mean, from the death of the Southwest Conference to the WAC to the first year in Conference USA, and I mean a couple of 7-win seasons thrown in there. But certainly an interesting turn for Coach Hatfield after leaving Arkansas.
The first year they upset Texas and shared the Southwest Conference championship with Texas. So he has conference championships is twice as Arkansas and once at Rice.
How do you like that? And that's got to be a rare conference championship for Rice. And of course, I mean, it comes after, the league pretty much had almost dissolved. I was looking back in the history, and you throw the word around rivalry, and sometimes it doesn't stick. And this is a series that had been played since 1991, but man, it goes back a long, long way. Arkansas dominated the series, starting once Frank Broyles took over as the head coach. Before that, Rice kind of had Arkansas's number.
Yeah, you go back to the Jess Neely days in the 40s and 50s. Rice was pretty good. The private schools in the Southwest Conference, TCU, Rice, SMU, they did pretty good during that time. But not anymore.
No, not anymore. It's all about the bigger and more funded universities are the ones that ultimately had the bigger and better football programs. But Clay, is there a game when you think about Arkansas Rice that really sticks out in your head that was a memorable, even a possible classic game in this rivalry or series?
Really, the like 70, 71, and 72, Rice won or tied all 3 years. And the game that I remember in Little Rock that Rice won, I guess it was 70. Their coach, Al Conover, before the game, picked up a chair, it's in the visitors' locker room, and threw it through a window for emphasis. And that's what I remember. And they came out, I would say, in a crazed state and really shocked the country, beat Arkansas. That was, kind of told us that Arkansas was about to enter like a little, down period with Coach Bowles. Recruiting had suffered. It was at the time of integration, and things were just different for a few years. And, of course, Coach Bowles went out on top, 75. But, yeah, that's what I remember. Mm-hmm. You just would not believe that Arkansas would lose to Rice, and I guess it's always a reminder. You better play at your level against a team like this, and don't give them hope. Knock them out early.
And I think Sam Pittman today will be asked at right about 1 o'clock about the availability of Treylon Burks, and he touched on it on Monday. I would not expect John Ridgway to play after an appendectomy a week earlier, but potentially you could get Burks out there. And I wonder if he's not out there, do you expect the offense to be limited without their most dynamic player, or is it really just a matter of finding somebody else to step up into that role?
So, see, the thing that I look for early on is the physical dominance of the offensive line and the defensive line. When you play a team like Rice, you have to own the line of scrimmage. And it's not about, who you got the best wide receiver or you got this. You got to block them, and then you got to defeat blocks. And that's where I want to see where this Arkansas team is in year 2 under Pittman. Everyone will tell you that this is a more physical team. This is, this is a bigger, badder version of the Razorbacks than what we've seen really for a number of years. And if that's the case, then you should be able to. And I'm not saying that that you make it a runaway, but that you're able to run it on 3rd and 1. You're stopping people on the goal line if they try to assault you running wise, and that's what I want to see. And if you can't do that against Rice, then you're probably in trouble when you get to SEC play or the next week against Texas. So whether Treylon Burks is out there or not, I think we'll learn a lot about this team if they're, as I said, a bigger, badder version of the Razorbacks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of questions hopefully will be answered. And one question I think most people want answered, and it's been one of the biggest questions from last year going into this season, is depth. How much depth do the Razorbacks really have for when they get into SEC play? And how much of that question do you think will actually get answered against Rice with, fingers crossed and hopefully not overlooking them? You're cruising in the second half and you can actually show your second and third stringers.
Well, I think more than that, if you're in the fourth quarter and it's a game, does your depth show up? Are you fresh still because you've been able to play 2 and 3 sets in the defensive line? And to me, that's what SEC football is about. Is you can't leave Dorian Gerald out there or at defensive end for 60 snaps. These guys are much better if they're playing 30 to 40. Jonathan Marshall sometimes played. I think LSU he played 95 snaps if you count the special teams. And that's why at the end of the year Arkansas wasn't the same team. And I think the depth shows up that you're rotating your linemen on defense and your secondary guys. I mean, can Jalen Catalon come off the field for a few snaps? Do you have more than one set of defensive backs? And I think they do. For instance, I think Hudson Clark can sub for Ladarius Bishop. I think Devin Bush can sub for Monterey Brown. And it really makes a difference when you get into the second half if your top guys have not played every snap.
All right, Clay, stick around with us for another segment if you got the time to. When you're worried about eating at Mermaids, though, believe me, I understand. You might want to whet that appetite and get that and
Bill,
get
I
that
don't know
food
about
going.
you, but when I'm going to speak in a little bit, I don't eat too much.
Okay, yeah. Eating before speaking sometimes can be a
that's not the best way to do it.
Yeah, dangerous proposition. Yeah, you don't want to repeat yourself in more than one way.
I'd like to be up there with a clean shirt too.
That's a good point. It's a good point. You got questions for Clay? 877-377-6963. And I have a feeling, Clay, you talk about you want to see dominance on the line of scrimmage. They're getting an opportunity to show it because, as we heard from Rice head coach Mike Bloomgren, they are a bunch of players that use intellectual brutality. And we'll see exactly what that means. Maybe in your words after this.
They're going to try to run the ball, and I call it bully ball. I think they'll probably try to bully us a little bit with their offensive line. They have a lot of experience there.
They kind of swing in from binds everywhere. And I appreciate Sam Pittman saying that we play bully ball. It's something that we try to do. We live and breathe intellectual brutality around here.
Sam Pittman and Mike Bloomgren with some of the catchphrases I think that they'd like to be known for. A couple of former offensive line coaches. Clay Henry still with us here for another segment, publisher, editor, Hogs Illustrated. So, Clay, we're talking about the idea that in this opening game, you would like to see the Razorbacks physically dominate over Rice, something that they haven't done in a while at the line of scrimmage. So when I hear the terms bully ball and intellectual brutality thrown around by both head coaches, I have a sense you're going to have a chance to see that.
Yeah, it's about challenging the man across from you. And, it's when we watch on TV, it's kind of like a video game. You're watching the ball and throw the ball around, toss sweeps. You're watching the guy run with the ball. you really want to see what football is all about, this would be, especially if you're in the stands, so get your field glasses and put them on the center, and you'll see the guards. You might see in peripheral vision the tackles. Just watch what happens inside there. And it is, I played a little football in junior high, and it was nasty stuff. I'm talking about playing inside, in the tackles and what happens in there. And, it's sometimes it's not real pretty. You go down on the field, and I know you've been on the field, Phil, and you've gone to practice, and you get really close to see what's happening. And it's beast mode. And that's, there's 7-on-7 where there's not any of that, and that, to me, that's not really football. But I think that what Sam Pittman wants to do, as far as what they've done is a physical workload with the offensive and defensive line has, they're beat up a little bit, but it's because they've had the proper camp. And I think it's the way you play football, and it's the way you develop during the year. And if you go back to the way Stanford has played the last few years with 2 tight ends and everything, where it's that's beast mode too, and that's what that's the Rice background that these coaching staff had. So I think you'll know pretty quick, that if Sam's accomplished some of his goals as far as physicality.
Clay, we have a question for you on the text line, and Brandon in Paris just wants to know who you think really needs to stand up and stand out for the Hogs to have a nice and easy runaway victory.
Well, I'm not sure it's going to be a runaway victory. I mean, I think it's 2 to 3 touchdowns is not runaway. I think the line is 3 touchdowns. I'm not a betting guy, and I don't. It's just a reference point for me. But I think Treylon Smith and Rocket Sanders, those guys, they'll if Arkansas has done what they're supposed to do against Rice, those 2 running backs will have had good games.
I can't wait to see what Rocket Sanders does when he touches the ball. I have a sense of anticipation about him from what I read about him, from the little I saw at practice, from I know about his size as a true freshman, the fact that they gave him number 5, and you don't just throw that number around, to somebody that you don't expect to do something. I have this. I know we're all fired up about Treylon Burks, KJ Jefferson, Treylon Smith. I can't wait to see Rocket Sanders get that ball.
Yeah, it's they had a little trouble with him right at the start, like in the spring, and you saw him. He tried to bounce things outside, and I think they got that fixed pretty quickly in camp. Is that you run behind your pads, and if you're 228, you don't have to bounce everything outside. You run, break through those arm tackles, and you make it tough for those safeties and linebackers. That you're bigger than some of those guys, and so punish them. And we'll see if he's able to do that Saturday. But I think that you can't make it through a game at 1 p.m., 92 degrees with 1 running back, or maybe even 2. So we may see some stuff from Dominic Johnson too.
Yeah, and I hope we will there, Clay. And another question from the text line, because everybody has their own question. William in Jonesboro wants to know how you think KJ is going to handle his first start at Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. Is he going to play up to? Do you think that it might be a slow start and he'll slowly build into playing in front of that many people, because he hasn't thus far?
Yeah, I mean he's played at Tiger Stadium and at LSU, and played in front of a good crowd at Missouri. I don't think the crowd is bothers players like that. There may be some rustiness just from not having played a game in a year, but he's got some experience, and I think he'll do fine. If the offensive line plays, he'll be just fine. You know, if he's running for his life back there, then that's not his fault. I think that, you know, what you see across the front from Myron Cunningham, Brady Latham, Ricky Stromberg, and Ty Cleary, and Dalton Wagner, you know, some of those backups like Tykeus Crawford will probably play some. I suspect that Luke Jones will probably play some too, the left guard. Those guys, they're the ones that will make it easy for KJ, and doesn't have to be, you know, Superman. He can just be, you know, KJ and get them out of bad plays and you know, and see what's going on with the defensive front where they can check and do the proper reads. You know, the RPO makes it tough on blitzes, but I think Rice will throw some things at him early and see if he can handle it.
Clay, I want to stay on KJ here. You know, locker room is so important in this sport. And when you look, it's obvious to me that KJ, at least right now, you know, so to speak, has the locker room. I mean, he's one of 5 team captains, but is the only one who, you know, really doesn't have all that much of a body of work to go off of. You got Joe Fouché, who I think has been here for a long time and is highly respected. Myron Cunningham, 3rd-year starter. Jalen Catalon, future NFLer, and, you know, potentially an All-American. Same with Grant Morgan. And KJ Jefferson, I'm not saying he doesn't have that talent to have that kind of success. It's just only 2 starts. But it does say what his stature is amongst his teammates, which, man, at that position means so much.
Yeah, if he wasn't the captain, then you would say, okay, what's going on here? But it's as it should be, and I think this is his team. And I think if you say offensively, it's his team. And I think defensively, it's probably Grant Morgan and Jalen Catalon's team, and that's not a surprise either. And I've tried to figure out, you know, what is Jalen Catalon? Well, he's a guy that's just going to lead by example. The guy that probably makes the speeches before game is probably Grant Morgan. He's the guy that's going to, you know, stir the pot a little bit or stir the drink. But yeah, I mean, it looks like that this is a team with some leadership, and that's a real good sign. And it also is a team that appears that they really like their coaches, especially the head coach, and that's a real good sign.
Yeah, it's always a great sign when the guys come out and, you know, guys yesterday in the press conference talking about how they'd run through the wall for Sam Pittman and the rest of the coaching staff. But Clay, the most popular person on every team is the backup quarterback. Will we see Malik on Saturday?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got some stuff for him, and and I don't think just in mop-up duty. I think there'll be some times where they run him in, and he's a little bit of a change of pace with his speed. Not that KJ's slow, but this is a guy that looks like a scat back playing quarterback. He wears number 4, and I just every time I watch him in practice or watch some tape of him, it reminds me of Quinn Grovey. That's a nice comparison, guys.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. It sure is a great comparison. Clay, if I were to ask you on your feel on whether or not we see Treylon Burks, you think he plays Saturday or not? Or music
I don't know. Yeah, I think that they probably know by now if he's going to play or not, but I sure don't know.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's not.
I'd prefer he didn't. I mean, let's make sure he's 100%.
Clay will be at 100% with you next week. Have a great speaking engagement, great meal, and we'll see you Saturday.
Okay, thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Clay. Also, thanks for the flies. I really appreciated them.
Clay Henry from Hogs Illustrated. I don't know if he heard your thank you or not.
I'll text him. Just
you
thank him
text
again.
It to him. That's right. Yeah, on 901 day. We didn't even get a chance to have him make fun of you on your favorite day of the year.
I'm sure he'll make up for it next week.
901 day or your birthday? Quickly, what's more important?
901 day.
You're out of time.
It's that time of the year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all of the pro and college football action this season. Get all of the updated odds, props, and contests, including the online's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest, the world's largest 200,000 NFL Survivor contest, open now at BetOnline. Here's what you have to do. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. Take advantage of their opening day super promo. Make a bet on the Thursday, September 9th season opener between the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. And if you lose, your wager's going to be refunded for up to $25 for new customers only when signing up and using the promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.